Can you please look up this thing?
See if we can figure out something.
Hi guys. This lighting is not it. Not it. I mean, that actually kind of looks better. Hey Steve. So there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that I'm online, and that sounds so cocky saying out loud. The bad news is that I unfortunately cannot do a podcast tonight because, hey Mel, my office is not set up and I seriously need to get ready for tomorrow. And it's 20 to 10. But what I am happy to do is put on the Dee Warner trial, have it on in my ears, listen with you guys. There might be points where I can only comment because I'm still trying to rejig the office or whatever. Like I can't even get the lighting right. So I thought we could do that, and then I can do the podcast another day. Because I have also potentially run out of personality for today. If I'm honest, it was a very social day. Which was amazing. Like, let me see if I can get a photo that's not like gonna show anything. 7 minutes backing up. Okay. No, let's go back. I need to open it in another tab just in case. Hey, Jen. Oh, I can't show you guys right now. Google Photos is being... Oh, connection is unstable, it says. Well, I have something for you. So am I. So there's that. Great. I guess we're going to have to just see how... Oh, I also didn't put a thumbnail up. Gonna have to just see how this goes and really hope and pray that if the connection drops from StreamYard, that YouTube still carries on. Right, let's see. I just lost that tab. Okay, I got it. What does YouTube say? My YouTube says stream health is excellent. Hey, Josh. Let me just do this quick, and then I need to get cracking. Let me just pin this. Okie dokie. Let's do this.
People would call Daniel Dreyer.
Whoops, one more thing. Actually, this should have been pinned, but anyway. Maybe I'll pin it instead. Were you shopping, Mel? Did I save you money? I would love that. I didn't save myself money today, I promise. Where we were was beautiful, but it is a pricier place. Whoa, he's tall.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. Speak loudly into the microphone. Spell your first and last name.
Daniel Drewer, Daniel Drewer,
Sir, where are you employed?
by the Michigan Department of State Police.
And how long have you been with the Michigan State Police?
Just over 10 years, ma'am.
What's your current role?
I'm a detective sergeant in our special investigation section.
How long have you been a detective sergeant in that capacity?
In 2.5 years this summer.
Okay. And what kind of training do you have?
In order to become a trooper with the Michigan State Police, you have to attend the Michigan State Police Trooper Recruit School. Subsequently, you're on a field training program to become a road patrol trooper. After that portion of your training, you're then a solo trooper, and then we have continued training. Specific to this role, I've attended numerous courses on death investigation, special investigation tactics, interview interrogation, analyzing evidence, numerous things related to investigating violent crime or crimes of a more serious nature.
Do you have any schooling?
Yes, ma'am. I have an associate's degree
Okay. And what would that associate's degree be in?
in business.
At some point, did you become involved in the investigation with Dee Warner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in what capacity?
I was contacted by the Illinois County Sheriff's Office around March 2 years ago, and they asked for assistance in investigating her disappearance.
When you say March 2 years ago, 2022?
Yes,
March, okay. And so they, at that point, it was to assist in the investigation?
that's correct.
All right. And who were you working with from the Illinois County Sheriff's Department?
There were several people involved. My primary contact was Detective Greca.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, didn't get
Detective Greca, sorry, Judge.
and at some point, did you take this case on full time?
Yes,
And when was that?
that was August of the same year.
Okay. When you became involved, either with the Sheriff's Department assist or when you took it over full time, what did you do first?
Now, initially, when I first became involved in aiding the Sheriff's Department, my primary goal, aside from getting up to, I'll say, speed, so to speak, just becoming more knowledgeable on the case and circumstances, was due to the length of time since the incident. It had been almost a year. My primary goal was to make sure we had collected and possessed all of the evidence that could go away. So certain evidence expires over time. My primary goal, let's figure out what that is and make sure we have that.
Okay. And as a result of that, what did you do?
We did do a search warrant back at the Munger Road residence.
Okay. Do you recall what date that was?
I don't. It was within the first couple of months of assisting. So that spring going into summer of 22.
Okay. And when you say on the Munger Road home, what did that search warrant entail?
That search warrant was for the residence that Dee and Warner had lived in up till 4/25/21, and all of the outbuildings on that property, including vehicles. The primary reason for the search warrant was electronic devices, but other things were covered in that warrant also.
Okay. Was there land associated with that Munger Road residence?
Yes, the landing surrounding curtilage.
Okay. Do you know how much land was associated with that particular property?
I'd be estimating, ma'am.
Okay. Can you give me an approximate?
It's about 20 acres, I think.
Okay. And did you seize electronics on that particular date?
Yes.
All right. Did you do any other search warrants? Not necessarily that day. Did you yourself draft any other search warrants when you took this case over?
I did other search warrants in the assisting capacity
Okay.
leading up before August.
Okay, and what were you doing search warrants for? Like what types of items or property or?
There was a search warrant in close proximity to that one for an additional electronic device. I can't recall if those search warrants included the seizing of the devices and the forensic search of it, but I may have drafted another one to actually search the devices that were seized. And I'm sure there's a couple more that I drafted in an assisting capacity, but I can't recall what they were.
Okay. During the execution of those search warrants, did you ever come across Dee's physical phone? A phone that was, I apologize, I'll reword that. A phone that was identified as Dee's physical phone.
That's kind of a complicated answer. So we seized devices that we now know were her previous phones. So maybe a phone that she had in years past. I came in contact with a phone that had her data on it that she never possessed. But as far as the phone that she would have been in possession of the weeks and days leading up to her disappearance, no. So in other words, the phone that she would have possessed on the weekend of 4/25/21, we have never discovered that phone. No, ma'am.
Okay. Once you took the investigation over from the sheriff's department, did you draft any other search warrants?
Yes.
Okay, and what were those search warrants for?
That's a long list, ma'am. We did search warrants for healthcare records, phone records. We searched numerous vehicles a number of different ways. We got records from OnStar. We got records for social media. We did several land searches. We searched residences of secondary parties, their electronic devices. We've done search warrants for what I'll refer to as internet-related accounts. So Google, for instance, several search warrants to Google, to Yahoo. I can't think of, we've done search warrants for things of a biological nature through our lab.
What about bank accounts?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, we did numerous financial search warrants for several different institutions, banking institutions.
Okay.
And credit as well, credit check, essentially, search warrant for the credit bureaus.
When you say you did several search warrants for bank accounts, do you know, did you get data back from as a result of those?
Yes.
All right, and how many bank accounts do you believe you discovered as a result of that?
Those search warrants were done in phases, so only because of discovering new accounts, getting search warrants. In total, I'd be estimating how many total accounts there were associated with this case. It would be, I would say, over a dozen.
Okay, when you say associated with this case, what do you mean by that?
There were bank accounts associated with just Dee Warner. There are
Okay.
bank accounts associated with their business entities. There are bank accounts associated with just Dale Warner. There are bank accounts associated with Dale Warner and another party. There are bank accounts associated with just Zach Bach. There are bank accounts associated with another gentleman, Chris Wallach.
Okay, you said there are bank accounts associated with Dale and Zach.
Not those two together.
Okay,
Sorry if I
That's the way I took
misspoke.
it. No?
Dee and Zach, I may have misspoke. Dee and Zach
okay,
had accounts associated together.
okay.
Guys, there's a poll on what to watch.
And
There's only 2 votes so far.
let's focus on Dee's personal accounts for a minute, okay? Did you review all those records that you received back from the bank on her accounts?
Yes.
Okay, and did you notice a pattern? First off, let's start. When did the date range start for the records that you received?
Most of the bank records that we received date back to January of 2020.
Okay, and
There-
what would,
If I may, ma'am, there are some records that we requested for a larger span of time, but those are not her sole accounts.
okay. What's the end date on the search warrants?
The end date is written to present day, would be the language in my search warrant. So if I'm writing the search warrant on August 1st, 2023, it's going to give me information to that day.
Okay. When you reviewed those bank statements that were the sole ownership of Dee Warner, did you look at a pattern between January 2020 and April 25th, 2021?
Yes.
Okay, and can you describe, if you can, like on a monthly basis, what's the typical pattern for that?
Objection, this is going to be based on hearsay. I don't believe these records have not been admitted, but I also don't believe there are proposed records. And I'm specifically looking at proposed exhibit 15 with the listing on there. I don't see anything related to financial records.
That is correct. They are, again, they're business records, which he is relying on to make his conclusions. I can print every single statement and bring them down for the
I
court.
will allow it in for preliminary exam purposes.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Tell me about the pattern of activity starting in January 2020 through April 25th, 2021 on a monthly basis. What did that monthly usage look like?
There were several accounts that had just Dee Warner's name on them. Their uses were for different things, so it's hard to put them all in the same bucket. But essentially, the accounts had regular use throughout the months.
Can you define what you mean by regular use?
There was deposits and withdrawals into the accounts on a regular basis.
Okay.
Regular meaning some might be multiple times a week, some might be once a week, but each of those accounts in her name essentially have those similar types of transaction history.
Were there times where it was every single day there were transactions being made?
Yes. Maybe not every single day for the full month, but there'd be consecutive days on a consistent basis.
Okay, and that was just for the accounts in Dee's name alone?
Yes.
Okay, now, how many business accounts did you get bank statements for?
Has to be at least 5 or 6. I'm not certain how many.
Okay, and again, give me the time frame that we're looking at on those.
Some of them date back to all the way of 2019. Some were just at 2020 to April or to present day when I wrote the warrant. So it depends on the business. And I'm not certain if from memory I could differentiate for you.
Okay. Were any of those business accounts listed as the bank with a sole owner?
Just a heads up that currently it is 67% voted for this trial and 33 for Judge Fleischer and no one for Judge Middleton. So if you haven't voted yet, I'm going to end it soon so I can call it because I'm currently sorting out my desk. But then I'm going to have to move to a different section. And I think I might have to move my webcam for that and my mic.
Yes.
Do you recall how many of those accounts were listed with a sole owner?
I don't. And now that you say that, ma'am, the business accounts might all have someone else associated with it. For instance, I'm thinking of DEW. I'm near certain that Dee and Zach were on that account. Now that I say that, I'm not certain that Dee had any business account with no one else on it.
Okay, so when you say associated with, do you mean it could be not a joint owner or an authorized signer or anything in that capacity?
That combination or one or the other. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm sorry, how many business accounts did you say there were?
No less than 5 or 6.
Okay.
That's a complicated answer because some of the businesses that they had previous bank accounts also. So they may only have 4 or 5 businesses on paper, but we might have 10 different accounts. Does that make sense? They might have moved institutions or something like that.
All right. On the accounts solely owned by Dee, was there a balance on that account on April 25th, 2021?
I'd asked it whether are we on business now, or this is personal or business? And I did hear him say originally sole owner, but then there might have been someone else associated. So if he doesn't have the clear answer, I'd ask him to refresh his memory, because this is getting a little vague. I think there might have been someone else. I mean, I don't even think he has the personal knowledge for some of this.
I think we do need some clarification about this last question specifically.
The accounts owned solely by Dee that were her personal accounts, not the business accounts. Was there a balance on those on April 25th, 2021?
Yes, there was cash available in those accounts.
Okay. And after April 25th, 2021, were there any transactions on those personal accounts that you just testified to?
Yes, there were transactions on those accounts which were attributed to, in essence, a conservator taking the account over.
Okay. Were
So
there,
the transactions were not conducted by Dee Warner, if that makes sense.
okay. Were there any deposits put in that account after April 25th, 2021?
Yes, there were payroll deposits.
Okay. And were there any withdrawals after April 25th, 2021 that were not attributable to the conservator?
No, ma'am.
You indicated that you executed some search warrants on medical. Is that correct?
For medical records and for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay, so Blue Cross Blue Shield, how far back did your request for records go?
Through January of 2020.
Okay, and did you receive those records?
Yes.
And would that be the same thing? It was to present day whenever you executed the search warrant?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give me an approximate month and year that you executed that search warrant?
I believe that was the fall or winter of, I'm not sure, ma'am, I'm sorry. I want to say the fall or winter of 23, but I could have done it earlier.
Okay. Did you review the records that you received back from Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yes.
Okay, and starting in January 2022 up to April 25th, 2021, did you notice any type of pattern in their use of that medical?
January 2020 to April 2020?
January 2020 to April 2021, I apologize.
I'm sorry, I think I still misheard you. January of 2020 or 2021?
January of 2020, that's when you said you wrote the
Correct.
start date, okay? So January 2020 through April 25th, 2021. Do you see a pattern of use on that Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yes.
Okay, describe that to me, for me.
There are two different avenues to explain her health insurance coverage and use. Essentially, you have medical billing and then her prescription billing.
Okay,
Do you have a preference?
let's talk about the medical first.
Okay.
Tell me about the pattern.
She had numerous uses per month very consistently in that time span. So there were times she would have what appeared to be 3 or 4 medical billings a week. It would be very difficult to find a singular week that she didn't have one. And most of those times were attributed to a vacation where she's out of town.
After April 25th, 2021, is there any medical use on the Blue Cross Blue Shield medical portion?
No.
And you discussed prescriptions,
Yes.
all right? Tell me about that.
The prescription billings on the account are very similar in activity as described as the doctors. There are numerous billings per month very consistently in that time span. It appears that she picked up prescriptions very regularly. Perhaps not weekly, but very close.
And again, can you give me a time frame on that? Was that also January 2020?
Yes.
Okay. After April 25th, 2021, is there any activity for prescriptions?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
There were 2 transactions at a CVS pharmacy in Tecumseh. There were prescriptions that were autofilled that weren't picked up. So CVS charged Blue Cross Blue Shield when they weren't picked up after a certain amount of time. That was then refunded back to CVS. Or I'm sorry, refunded back to Blue Cross from CVS.
Any activity after that?
No.
You indicated that you did search warrants for social media.
Yes.
And what in particular did you do those search warrants for?
For Snapchat and Facebook.
Okay, when you say Facebook, is Facebook and Facebook Messenger the same, or do you have to do separate search warrants or?
Our search warrant contained a request for both record sets.
Okay. And what was the request date range for those items?
I don't recall the start. I want to say it's also January of 2020, but I'm not certain. And it would have been written to present date whenever the search warrant was authored.
When you were writing the search warrants for all these, some of these different things, did you expand the time frame for any particular reason?
Yes, I expanded that time frame on the front end dating backward to establish a basic pattern of life.
Okay.
And specific with Facebook, it was to see if I could find any communications through Messenger that may not have been on her phone. For instance, if she was messaging somebody that perhaps other people didn't know about.
Okay. Did you in fact get records back from Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. And again, is that the same, that the end date for those requests would be whatever date that you requested them?
Yes.
Okay. And did you review the documents that you received back from Facebook?
Yes.
And was there a pattern of activity on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
The pattern was very regular. So things were posted in a regular capacity, messages were exchanged with friends in a regular capacity, near daily use, essentially, on a daily occurrence of her interacting with Facebook in some way.
Okay. When you say interacting with Facebook in some way, are you also referring to Messenger? Because for some reason, I look at them differently in my head. So is there some different data you have for Messenger, or is that the same?
The messaging data is kind of intermingled. So when I say interacting, I mean, each day she's posting something on someone else's page, for instance, commenting on something or sending a message. I kind of think of it as using Facebook in those capacities.
Okay. You indicated you did a search warrant for Snapchat.
Yes.
Did you receive any data back from them?
I received a response that contained no data.
And are you familiar with Snapchat?
I am.
Do you have an explanation?
Unmuting, but I'm not doing the camera yet because it's gonna fall off the top. So I just want to check that I'm understanding properly. Was she kind of doing creative accounting? Because that's what it sounds like. But I do also have to admit that I was trying to like move things in such a way that I was attempting to not pull everything out of the back of my monitor / computer. So I might have heard wrong. It just sounded like she was claiming medical bills as business.
Explanation of why there is no data?
Yes.
Okay, tell me.
Snapchat, by its nature, is meant to get rid of the messages and interactions you have with people. So it is not uncommon for us to get search warrant results that say they have no results, especially given the length of time in between in between when she was last seen and when I authored the search warrant, it had been at least a year. So I wasn't surprised to see that there was no response.
You did search warrants for a lot of electronics, correct?
Yes.
All right, and let's talk specifically about cell phones. Did you do a search warrant for something called FOG?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what that's about.
FOG is essentially the one of the companies that collects and sells your information for advertisers. For instance, maybe you've driven by the same Radio Shack every day for a month. You're going to start receiving ads on your phone specific to that Radio Shack, hypothetically. So FOG is the housing body of that housing data, essentially tracking your phone's location, your common routes, and they're selling that to advertisers to target you and where you go.
Okay, and what was the purpose of doing that FOG search warrant?
That type of electronic data capture is valuable for investigators when they're looking for a particular device that may not be known in a particular geography at a particular time. For instance, if I'm looking for someone at the Munger Road farm during a certain time and it's an unknown electronic device, FOG may have captured that phone device.
Okay. Did you get a response from FOG?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the result of that?
No devices were detected at the farm during the weekend of 4/25/21.
No devices or no unknown devices?
I believe there were no devices. So FOG does not claim to be 100%. They have documentation about doing a particular data set at Ford Field during a football game, for instance, and I forget the percentage, but it wasn't every device that was there.
Okay. And geofence, did you do a search warrant, a geofence search warrant?
That's Google, yes, ma'am.
Google, okay.
Geofence.
Can you explain what that one is?
A geofence search warrant is using similar technology as I described with FOG. However, it's specific to Google. So any application on a phone or mobile device that's running a Google-based application or Android application supported by Google is going to be typically giving electronic data to Google. You essentially draw a hypothetical square around an area and tell Google, I want every device that was in this area at this particular time.
Okay, and what area did you tell Google that you wanted?
They have a minimum area. I forget how small it can be, but essentially it was overlaid over top of the Munger farm.
Okay, when you say the farm, what do you mean?
I mean the residents and the surrounding curtilage, as small as I could make that window.
Okay.
On 4/25/21 was the data set.
Okay, 4/25/21. Is there a time frame?
I think it went from 5 or 6 a.m. till 10 a.m.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. I'm not certain.
Did you get results back for that?
Yes.
Okay, and what were those?
We did have one device detected within that area.
Okay, and when you say it's Google, so do I have to be connected to a Wi-Fi or anything like that for my phone to interact with this particular geofence?
You have to have some form of data connection, and you have to have your phone has to be operating a Google or Android supported app that's allowing location data.
Okay. You said you located one device in
Yes.
that? Okay, and were you able to identify the owner of that device?
Yes.
Okay, who was that?
Dustin Lally.
And who is Dustin Lally?
Dustin Lally is the romantic partner of Raquel, Dee's daughter.
Okay. Now, I know you testified that you didn't have Dee's physical phone that she owned on the day she went missing, but did you do a search warrant for her phone data?
Yes.
Okay. So I might use the wrong terms. Feel free to correct me if you want. So when I say phone data, I mean anything that would have been within her phone at the time she went missing. Okay? When I
Okay.
say phone, I don't mean physical phone. I mean is iCloud or whatever the device uses, okay? So who do you send the search warrant for her phone to?
There's a couple of ways to answer that question. So because her known phone was an Apple iPhone, search warrants were sent to Apple to get that information.
Okay,
However, we served search warrants to Dale Warner for the phone that possessed her data.
okay. Did you also serve any search warrants to Verizon?
That's correct.
Okay, and do you have a time frame for the records that you requested from Verizon?
There were several search warrants served to Verizon. My search warrant was not drafted until 2022. The Sheriff's Department did search warrants in 2021, beginning of May 2021. There was also a request for exigent information on 4/25/21.
Okay. Did you review the Verizon records for Dee Warner that you received?
Yes,
Okay, and was there a pattern of use on her phone?
yes.
Okay, and what applications or things were being used on her phone? I don't know if I said that right. So like, you know, you can make a phone call, you can text, you can do all kinds of things on your phone. What was she using on her phone?
With the records that we received, we're only able to see her mobile phone and data use, essentially. So whatever Verizon and the iCloud report, which are phone calls, text messages, data usage for apps, it doesn't specifically tell you how much data you're using, and then Apple messages.
Now, specific to the iCloud for Dee Warner, that's the one is that the one that you just testified that you served on Apple?
Yes, and that search warrant, if I can expand a little bit.
Excuse
ma'am.
me, Your Honor. May we approach? Thank you. Thank you.
It has come to the court's attention that there are members of the media who are either recording or viewing notes that are on the defense table. If you are seen doing that, you will be removed and banned from the courtroom. That is absolutely not allowed and will not be permitted. You may continue.
I think we left off with the iCloud for Dee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If I could expand on those search warrants.
Yes, please.
Search warrants were served initially by the county. There was an issue with retrieving some of that data. We then made a request for that same data set, which was delivered, and then we did an additional search warrant, several additional search warrants to Apple for more data.
Okay, and was that the iCloud data that you received in response to that?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me what is the cloud? What is iCloud?
The cloud is Apple's, the iCloud is Apple's way of managing and storing user data. So depending on how you set up your phone is going to dictate what your phone is sending to the cloud, so to speak. In case you lose your device, they're able to give you back everything you had saved on it.
Okay, and what types of things did Dee have saved in her iCloud?
Primarily messages and pictures. So
Okay,
Apple Messages, pictures. There's some location data. There were some other application data, but the bulk of that Apple iCloud dump is contacts through Messenger and photos.
and the iCloud data you received, I apologize, went back years before 2021. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember the date that it goes back to?
I'm near certain we have data going back to 2017.
Okay, and when you're reviewing that data for the iCloud, is there a pattern of activity on there?
Yes.
Okay, and let's talk first about text messaging. Was there a pattern of text messages?
Through the iCloud, I'm not being cute, would be iMessages or Apple Messages. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so no, I thank you for correcting me. So that the iMessages do not get saved in the iCloud, is that what you're saying?
The opposite. Those are the only messages saved in the iCloud. So if you were to possess a iPhone supported by Verizon, if you send an Android user a text message, Verizon's going to have that record. If you send another Apple person, an iPhone user, an Apple message, that will be stored in the cloud.
Okay, so your review of the cloud is apple to apple as far as text messages go.
Correct.
Okay, was there a pattern of use in those text messages?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what the use looked like for, let's say, a period of January 2020 through April 25th, 2021.
There was hundreds of messages exchanged each day.
Okay, and let's talk about phone calls or voice calls. Is that what it's called, voice calls? Okay, is that a yes? You have to say.
Well, that would not be necessarily supported through the iCloud, though. That would be through Verizon.
Okay, so the voice calls are going to be through Verizon.
Correct.
Okay, so you didn't see any evidence of that in the iCloud?
There might be some call logs, but I didn't analyze that data for the signs of life that you're getting to.
Okay, all right. So you didn't analyze any phone call data for,
Not from the cloud. That would be from Verizon.
so you did for Verizon?
Correct.
Okay, tell me what kind of pattern you noticed there.
The average day would consist of more than 10 phone calls per day, incoming and outgoing.
Okay, and pictures?
Yes, a very regular exchange of pictures through her phone. Yes.
Okay, what do you mean exchange?
Receiving and sending.
Okay. Okay. After April 25th, 2021, is there any activity, first let's talk about the iCloud, any activity on the iCloud?
The activity related to the iCloud after 4/25/21 is either due to an investigator's manipulation. We did access her iCloud in an attempt to retrieve some data.
Okay.
Or on at least two different instances, Dale Warner obtained a phone and put her iCloud information on it, I believe to further the business. So we could use that information for the business, that phone number.
Okay.
Essentially, her phone number was tied to her cloud account, and he activated that phone, to my understanding, to use as a business phone. And so that was an activity on her cloud account.
As far as the Verizon records that you reviewed, are there any phone calls from Dee Warner's number after 4/25/2021?
There was some very limited activity last winter, and it was the situation I previously described. They had reactivated that phone number for the business, and there were some calls made on that line.
Okay. So the situation you're talking about where Dale got a new phone and downloaded this, what is it? You download the iPod to the new phone?
That's correct.
Okay. And so May 10th of what year did you do a search warrant for that phone?
We did a search warrant for that phone on May 10th of 22.
Of 22, okay. And what was the search warrant for? What were you gonna do?
Well, we had done a search warrant just previous to that at the Munger residence to retrieve electronic devices.
Okay,
While there, I had contact with Dale Warner and asked him, I knew of this specific phone that he had with this iCloud information, and I asked him, where is that phone? His answer was, he pointed to the devices on the table and said, you have it.
okay. So you asked for the specific phone that he had Dee's information on,
Correct.
okay? And he told you already had it,
Correct.
okay. And then, did you have it?
No.
Okay. At some point, you come to realize that Dale still has that phone in his possession?
Yes.
How is that?
We had collected, it must be over 100 Apple devices or electronic devices from the house that day.
Okay.
I hadn't yet reconciled each device and what it was. This is probably a day or two later. In an effort to help him continue, his life and his business, I told him I would work to get him certain devices back as fast as possible. His primary iPad, for instance, business computers. He contacts me to schedule that, and he calls me from Dee's phone number.
Okay, did you ask him about that?
I waited until I hung up and then took action to go and retrieve that device, obviously realizing that he had it.
Okay, and did you get another search warrant for that?
I did.
And where did you get that phone from?
We went back to the residence on Munger Road and made contact with Dale initially at the office.
Okay, and did you ask him about that phone?
I did.
Tell me about that conversation.
Dale stated, upon arriving, I informed Dale that we needed that phone. I can't recall how I came to know that it was in a vehicle parked in front of the office. I'm not sure if Dale told me that or someone else. In any case, I discovered it was in a vehicle parked just a few feet away in the office, and Dale was not complying with giving me that device.
Okay, what do you mean not compliant?
I told him that he needed to provide it, and he did not want to do so. He refused.
It appears I forgot to ask you when we talked about the Facebook, the records, after April 25th, 2021, do you see any activity on Dee's Facebook?
No.
As part of your investigation, when you took over this, what else did you do?
Upon the state police receiving investigation in the sheriff's department, our first step was to do a little housekeeping and get the case organized. So as a transfer of property, we received thousands of pages of documents. We began to organize it so we could essentially start the investigation over. So that included conducting our own interviews. We were already evaluating electronic media based on the search warrants I just described to you, so we were continuing to do that, but as the housing agency instead of an assisting capacity.
Did you also, you said you conducted your own interviews. Did you watch any of the original Lenawee County Sheriff's Department body cams?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall interviewing Brian Bush?
Yes.
Do you know what date that was?
That was the first week of June of last year, I believe.
And where did you meet Brian Bush at?
I first came in contact with him at his residence.
Okay, and did you have a discussion with Brian about the GPS tracker for the Hummer?
Yes,
Okay, and did he indicate to you,
Objection, hearsay.
it's a prior inconsistent statement, I questioned Brian Bush about it. There were certain statements that he eventually acknowledged that he made, and there were other statements that he flat out denied. This is absolutely not hearsay, as a prior inconsistent statement.
Which she could have addressed with Mr. Bush when he was on the stand, not getting it hearsay through Detective Sergeant Drew York.
I did question Mr. Bush about it, and again, he denied this portion of it.
I'm gonna allow-
Did Brian Bush tell you about the Hummer tracker?
yes.
Okay. Did he tell you what Dale asked him to do?
He stated, Dale came to him and said, I need you to buy me a tracker for the Hummer.
Okay. And did he tell you what Dale wanted the tracker for?
So he could spy on Dee because he thought she was having an affair.
Okay. Did you ask him if there was any other use or purpose for that tracker?
I did.
Okay. And what was his response?
He stated no.
Did you also speak to Mr. Bush about Dale's statements to him the morning of April 25th, 2021?
Yes,
Okay. And did he tell you that Dale told him that there was a big argument that night before?
yes.
Okay. Did he tell you that the argument,
Your Honor, I am going to object again as to leading. And so it's just essentially the prosecutor asking leading questions and then now Detective Drew York saying yes. Thank you.
did Brian tell you what Dale told him the argument was about?
Yes.
Okay. What did he tell you?
Brian stated Dale told him that the argument on the evening of 4/24/21 was because Dale confronted her about money and cheating.
Did you talk to Brian Bush about the safe that was placed in the home, or the camera? I apologize. The camera, the trail cam that was placed in the home.
Yes,
Okay. And did he indicate to you what the purpose for that was for?
yes.
Okay. And what was the purpose?
Brian stated Dale knew about a safe that was some form of secret upstairs in Zach's room, and there were documents and maybe secret money in there, and he wanted the camera to see who was coming and going from that safe.
Okay. When he said who was coming and going, was he specific about who was coming and going?
In particular, Zach.
Okay. Did he say anything at all about strangers coming in?
No.
Did you come into possession of surveillance video from the Munger farm?
Yes.
And how did you come into possession of that?
That was in the transfer of property from the Lenawee County Sheriff's Office Fire Department.
Okay. And did you review any of that data?
Yes.
And did you do anything in particular with that surveillance video?
There were several things that we did. Yes.
Okay. And tell me what you did.
One of the first steps that we took was to verify that the time in the video was accurate.
Okay. And tell me how you did that.
At first glance, the video clearly had a discrepancy. There's a time on the video. I think it's in the upper right-hand corner. It says one date and time, and that doesn't appear to be coinciding with the actual date and time.
Are there two dates and times when you're looking at this surveillance video, or tell me what I see when I'm looking at it?
Yes, I believe the time in the upper right-hand corner is what the camera or the DVR is set to, and the time in the upper left-hand corner is what the, I believe the milestone application has the time to be.
Okay, so one's the actual DVR and one's for this actual security system, is that?
The software system the camera runs on, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said you had to figure out the time discrepancy. What did you do to try to determine the time discrepancy?
By the use of Detective Recca's body cam, we knew that time to be accurate because it's cloud supported.
It's what?
Cloud supported.
Explain that to me. What does that mean?
The internet is continually telling that that camera what time it is.
Okay. So you compared that to the surveillance?
That's correct.
All right. And what was the time discrepancy?
Essentially, there was a 1:35 discrepancy with the time in the upper left-hand corner of the video. So if the camera time says that it's 7, it's really 7:01 and 35 seconds.
So you would add the 1 minute and 35 seconds? Is that on the end?
To adjust it to what the real time is, correct?
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was the left camera?
The time in the upper left-hand corner, yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Did you also do any search warrants for, as a result of your conversation with Brian Bush?
Yes.
Okay, and who did you send that particular request to?
There were search warrants done in preparation for contact with Brian Bush and search warrants done afterward. I'm not sure which ones you're referring to.
Okay, did you do any search warrant as it related to the GPS device?
Yes,
Was that as a result of speaking with Brian Bush or as a result of something else?
that was as a result of something else.
Okay, and who did you serve this search warrant on?
The company is Vinks by Agnic LLC.
Did you get a response from Vinks?
Yes,
Okay, and what format did they send you those records in?
I received a PDF document and an Excel spreadsheet.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I've handed you people's, it's already been marked as people's proposed 6. What is that document?
This appears to be is the Excel spreadsheet that I received in response to that warrant.
Okay, and what's the username on that?
The username is Bush5411.
What's the start date on that?
The start date is 1/11 of 2020.
Okay, what's the end date on that?
The end date is 8/11 of 2020.
Is that an accurate record of what you received from Agnex?
This is a part of it. There was 1 or 2 other documents.
What were the other 1 or 2 documents?
One of the documents was the account user information, essentially the sign in of Bush 54, what that is associated to. I think it had a Gmail address.
Okay,
The other document was a similar record set that's trying to think of a good way to explain this. This document details every time that the device was used to do a real-time GPS location.
okay,
So essentially, every time there's a line item here with the date and time, the user Bush5411 logged into that application and checked the location of that device.
Okay.
The other document is when there was a subscription associated with the device in which you could check past GPS location history. In addition, the device has some diagnostic ability to diagnose mechanical issues with the vehicle. That is detailed in the separate document.
I'd move to admit the portion of people's proposed Exhibit 6.
objection. I understand the court's ruling on business records, but I just am renewing my objection to any sort of report like that. Thank you.
I will make preliminary examinations.
Thank you. One second. Oh. Okay. Just to clarify, when Mr. Warner didn't want to give you the cell phone that he had the data on for Dee, did you eventually get that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You testified that as a part of your investigation, you were given all of the evidence, correct?
Everything the sheriff's department had collected, yes.
Were you given body cams as a part of the evidence that you had?
Yes.
All right. And were you given a body camera dated April 25th, 2021?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me what the topic of that body cam that you watched was.
42521 is the initial responding deputy, Deputy Hall, arriving to the Munger farm and making contact with Dale Warner after the initial missing persons report was filed by the adult children.
Okay, and you have that, and you've provided that for today, correct?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to play Deputy Hall's body camera from April 25th, 2021.
I already.
Just pausing to say that I don't think there's anything upsetting on this body cam, but let me just put myself in the bottom corner. I don't think there's anything upsetting on the body cam. However, it might be very loud and beepy because it's going to have that beep, 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 beep while it's like in the beginning. So if you're wearing headphones, this is a warning. So basically about the Facebook group, it's called Justice for Dee, and they keep asking about it. And so being the journalist that I am, I need both sides. I can't just take the side of, I think it was his defense attorney. I think it was the defense attorney that was like pushing on the Justice for Dee. Did you go to the media? Did you do this? Did you do that? I mean, their friend is missing. I totally understand. Media is the smartest way to go about things if someone's missing, in my opinion. So I thought I'd go on, and it's a pretty normal missing persons group. There's not like, I think they've blown it way out of proportion so far. I haven't done like a whole lot of digging, but I just wanted to see so that I could kind of get a background while I'm talking about this. And I've made it pretty clear that I am a journalist to them so that they know, like, I'm not just a random stranger. Yeah, so basically that's where it's at. Severe thunderstorms, stay safe. Aliens abducted you. I don't know where I stand with aliens, to be honest. It's something I think about every now and then I'm like, nope, I can't do it. Thank you, Mel. It's the end of the day, so it's a little like cray-cray. I can only be on for another 15 minutes or so. 56 to 112. Okay, that should work.
Or you had a prior objection. Thank you.
emergency at Wakefield Park. There'll be a bullet screen for that at the east end of the park near the restroom. With a Shannon Aldridge reference that domestic assault that occurred yesterday. I haven't had one.
Hello. Are you Dale? Excellent. I am Deputy All from Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. How are you, sir? Oh, appreciate that. Thank God. All right, so I hear your wife is missing.
Well, I don't know if she's missing or if she just left, so.
Okay.
She had an altercation with one of our employees, two of them. Yesterday, I came home last night and she was really upset. She was talking a lot of bad things as far as employees. The one employee decided to quit. She was gonna talk about killing herself and taking off and leaving.
Okay.
But she had COVID, 3 weeks ago. She just got over COVID like a week or so ago. She ain't acting right since. Her glands are swelled up. She's like got an infection, and she's got migraines. And last night she's coming down with a real bad migraine. So she's got some migraine pills in there that she takes. She took quite a few of those, and then she finally basically passed out on the couch, went to sleep, and got her calmed down. I thought, that was close to midnight when she finally went to sleep. I said, I gotta go to bed, man, I gotta get up in the morning.
Right.
So she was sleeping on the couch, and then this morning around 6 o'clock, I got up and, she was snoring away. I was gonna wake her up and tell she was, been up all night.
Right.
And then I went out all night. So then I went out and got my chemicals and got the sprayer loaded up and went to spray the batch. I texted her and she didn't answer, so I figured, well, she's still sleeping, she's not answering. So then I loaded up another batch and I went back up my aunt, sit down spraying. And then Raquel called me, her daughter Stephanie called me, said Raquel called her, she can't find her mom. And I said, well, she's at the house, she's in there laying on the couch. Excuse me, so she couldn't find her, and then I called Raquel, and I says, your mom's not there? She was just there, when I was there an hour or two ago. She said, no, she's not here. And I says, well, I'll be done spraying here shortly, and I'll be back. So about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes later, I got back here, and I went in the house, and she was gone. And I walked around in the house, went in the bathroom, well, her hair curler's gone, her hair dryer's gone, her makeup bag's gone, and she has a gold bag packed all the time. I mean, this is the first time she's left. Usually she takes off and goes to her son's house and stays for a day or so in her bag.
That cost.
Yeah, you comes back. Usually she gets all pissed off and takes off and goes over there for a day. This time the difference is she didn't answer anymore.
Right.
When she said her mom wasn't here, I went in and seen all that stuff going on. I wasn't real concerned because she does it all the time. She goes over to Zach's house and stays, so she'll cool off and she'll come back home. Well, nobody get hold of her. When Zach came here, I says, she's at your house. I know she is. You're just telling me the story. You're covering for her.
Yeah,
Covering for her.
Yeah.
And he says she's not. Well, I wasn't real convinced of it for a while. I am now because,
Yeah.
but nobody get a hold of her, so. But she didn't take her vehicle. She accused me of taking the key last night. When I said, you were home before I was, how could I take your key?
Sure.
But I think it was because of the migraine. She gets to where she can't see and she can't talk. It gets so bad. And I don't know. But then she's gone. She took all her bags. So somebody picked her up. So she's with someone somewhere.
Okay. Do you know of anybody who?
I don't. They called everybody that, like I said, I figured she was with Zach with her son.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else to do other than wait a day or so and see what
Sure,
she
I know.
shows up.
Yeah, I mean, if you.
I don't want to get everybody all fired up, the kids are all fired up and call police. You know, this isn't the first time she's done this, guys. The first thing is she's not communicating with anybody.
Right.
But the only thing that's really strange too is this time she put her wedding ring in my desk.
Yeah,
She's never done that before.
yeah, that is odd.
So she set this on my desk in the office and she went in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just puzzled.
Well, I
You
understand.
know, I'm concerned because my daughter's wondering what the hell's going on. And
Right,
I'm just gonna tell her, you know, Mom's working things out. She's
right,
frustrated. So
right. And her kids were insinuating that she normally has never left without you guys' daughter.
yeah, that's the other strange thing is our daughter went over to my brother's. He's got daughters close to her age. She went over there last night and stayed. And I don't know, it's really weird.
Yeah,
But I mean, I would think something was up, but she took her stuff. So I mean, it's not like somebody forced her to go anywhere. It's just not- I mean, she took her clothes and took her, you know, her curling iron and that stuff. So
And do you guys have any like farm trucks or anything like that? She would have been pissed off, jumped in, taken.
no, everything's here. You know, there's 15 semis out back and everything's here.
Okay.
The employee that she has on vacation with, he was never here today. He was gonna come clean his truck up. He never showed up. And the other one was here this morning and took a load of lime, but he was up, he left here at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3, and he just got back a few hours ago.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, it ain't nothing was down,
Right.
I mean, she's had altercations with quite a few people. She's pretty wired, if you know my wife.
I don't know, but.
She's in your face and tell you how it is. I mean,
Right, yeah, I get that. And these kinds of things happen quite often.
I mean, I told him, I didn't want to call anybody, I was gonna come into the office in the morning. Call you, I guess, you can't come to the office, not get here, can you come to the office?
You can go to the front lot, that's fine, yeah.
I mean,
It
you don't
is.
get everybody all fired up and then she shows up a day or two later.
No, yeah, I mean,
You look like an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, get everybody fired up, she'll be pissed that you called the police.
right, right.
So,
Do you know how much cash she normally carries in her purse?
a lot.
A lot. So the one son had said that he was on her payments or something and he checked and she said no activity.
No, well, she usually has a lot of cash, she carries a lot of cash,
Okay.
but I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Until another day goes by,
Right,
I'm concerned, but I'm not, you know, alarmed yet.
right.
Like tomorrow night, we ain't heard nothing. Well, yeah, we need to start
Figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's one thing to be, wife to be pissed off and take off.
Well, you know, we got 3 different businesses here, so the tensions are high all the time.
Sure.
We have arguments all the time.
Sure.
It's when you're married, you're.
Yeah, well, that's the goddamn truth.
We got 9 kids. When I was young, it's been a challenge.
No, I can imagine that, absolutely. So, we tried pinging her cell phone, nothing. My last ping was home here and that was at 7 something in the morning. So, I'm not sure. She clearly doesn't have a phone working. Is she a person who's normally keeps your phone on her hip or is she
She's never without it.
never without it?
But I told the other kids, she's got a second phone. She doesn't let anybody know she's got another phone.
Do you have a phone number?
No, it's a secret phone that she doesn't know that I know she has it, but
Why would she have her?
I have no idea. I haven't confronted her about it because I didn't want the confrontation, but I know she has another phone.
Okay, well, that might be an important chunk of information there. So if she
So
has
she
another
calls,
phone-
I mean, she got another phone, she calls somebody on that phone, I'm sure.
Okay.
Because, and the reason I know she has another phone is when we were in Florida, she tried telling me it was my daughter's phone. I didn't say nothing, it was my vacation, I wasn't gonna get it to her.
That's
Whatever. It's our daughter's phone, it wasn't, so it's like, no, but originally, we went to Mexico, it's been quite a while ago. And she had 2 phones in her bag, it was unpacked in her room, and she said, oh, that phone was in the room, that was in the room, and somebody else, I'll take it down the front desk and turn it in. But, you gotta choose your battle. There's a lot of other little things, but I mean, if she don't show up, I'm gonna start digging and figure them out.
Right, absolutely. And I'd say, I mean, it's only been,
Well, I mean, it's only been,
13 hours since
yeah,
you saw her.
yeah, well, cell phone thing, 12 hours since 7 o'clock.
Right, so I would definitely say though, if by tomorrow morning, we still have nothing on her, I'd be digging through paperwork trying to see if you can find anything where the cell phone would be. If she has a different one that she's keeping on her, and we can ping that, or that'll give us a location.
She's got her car, she parks her car at lot, so she's very, very secretive when she's doing.
Fair enough.
I don't know everything you're doing, but you can't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, that's no, I appreciate it, sir. I'll get out of your hair. At this point, I got nothing to go off of, just waiting out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else, I don't get all excited yet.
Sure.
Alright, a couple more days, but by then I'll see that.
Yeah.
Figure something out.
Right, absolutely. So,
If she, the way she left, she doesn't want anybody to know where she's at, so I mean,
yeah.
obviously she knows what she's doing because we can't find her.
Right. No, I get that. I absolutely get that. All right, I will, I'll clear out here, and if she does show up, please give us a call.
Okay, you got a card?
Yes, I'll give you that. For whatever reason she shows up, she comes back, it's fine.
Knows all of them,
All right, just call into central dispatch, they'll let me know, and,
That's
that way. Yep. So, all right,
You related to Matt Hall or?
Matt Hall, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, yep, he's my cousin.
Okay. And Marty, Marty then.
Yeah. All those guys.
So who's your parents then?
Mike and Lisa.
So how are they related to Gary then?
That's right.
Matt's dad. That would be,
And then we might be talking about a different side here.
I'm talking Matt Hall.
I've got a cousin, Matt Hall, from like St. Creek area.
Okay, this one's right from Brown Hanson area.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, sorry. Yeah, there's a ton of us, brother. Yeah, there's plenty. So I appreciate it.
Sure, at this time, I would move to admit people's proposed 15H.
Any objection?
None other than what I'd already placed on the record. Thank you.
People's proposed exhibit 15H is needed for memory exam purposes.
Sir, through the course of this investigation, did you learn the value of Dee's wedding ring?
Yes,
Okay, and what was that?
approximately $30,000.
May we approach?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go straight into this because it's going to be like 20 minutes-ish, so we can fit it in today. If I talk a lot, we're not going to be able to. So I'm just going to hop over here, click play.
Thank you. I call Ryan Heathhouse.
Can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I didn't hear we.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman.
He needs to be sworn in, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Sir, can you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you state and spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Yes, it is Ryan Heathouse, RyanHeethuis.
Thank you. Sir, where are you employed?
I'm employed with the U.S. Secret Service.
How long have you been in that current role?
I've been on for 13 years.
And what do you currently assigned to? What are you currently assigned to?
I'm currently assigned on the Europol Joint Cyber Action Task Force in The Hague, Netherlands.
And what is that?
So the task force is designed to investigate high-value targets in cybercrime investigations in child exploitation cases. So it's made up of 24 agencies from 20 countries around the world, with Secret Service being one of those agencies.
And how long have you been doing that as part of the Joint Cyber Task Force?
I've been in this role for 4 years.
Okay, and prior to that, what was your position?
So prior to here, I was assigned for 3 years at our Paris field office. And then prior to that, I spent the first 6 years of my career with the service in our Detroit field office.
Okay, and what did you do for the Paris field office?
Largely the same, so we're working a lot of bilateral cybercrime investigations.
And prior to that, in the Detroit field office, when were you in the Detroit field office?
From 2011 until 2017.
Okay, and was it 2017 that you were at the Paris office?
That's correct.
Okay, so in the Detroit field office, what were you doing?
In my role in the Detroit field office, we were working a lot of, so our core investigative mandate is the protection of anything that touches the financial infrastructure in the U.S. But then in that same role, we end up working a lot of task force with our local and state partners. So we're part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and then the Electronic Crimes Task Force. So we end up getting involved in a lot of other non-financial cases as well, so homicides and robberies and things of that nature.
At some point in time, did you become involved in, well, strike that, prior to being at the Detroit field office, where were you employed?
I was employed with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in Jacksonville, Florida for 4 years.
And what did you do there?
I was a crime analyst in our intelligence and violent crime section.
What types of cases did you investigate?
So we worked on homicide cases, missing person cases, also some financial kind of organized crime cases as well.
At some point in time, did you become involved in an investigation involving Dee Ann Warner?
I did.
And do you recall when that was?
I think the first time that I was contacted was in, I think, September 2022.
Okay, and what were you asked to do?
I was asked to conduct searches for a report for what we refer to as signs of life reports. So this is something that we've done historically over time, looking for any signs of an individual. This can be both in suspects in some cases or in other cases where we're in missing person cases where we're trying to find any sign, a digital footprint, financial footprint, a travel footprint of this individual.
And did you do that in this particular matter?
I did.
Okay, and did you create a report dated March 10th, 2024?
I did.
All right, and were there attachments to that report?
There were.
Okay, and the attachments, what were the attachments?
So when I do the report, I kind of have this summary of what I've run, and then the attachment kind of to show the results in the same way that I'm seeing them, just that the investigator who's receiving it kind of has a good way to interpret what is in the report.
And was that the first report that you've created in this case?
No, so the first one I did would have been shortly after that contact in 2022. And then over time, I think we updated it one additional time. So usually when I do these, my goal is to find any sign of the person. So I'm usually running these in periodic intervals. So we did it again in 2023 and then it was in March of 2024.
Okay, so you would do a initial report and make the attachments. So I emailed you People's Proposed Exhibit 17 and copied Ms. Chartier on it. Did you get that email, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and is that the report that you prepare on March 10th, 2024?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
And the attachments were hundreds of pages long, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so the document that you received, People 17, is just the initial 4-page summary of the findings of those attachments. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and is the document that I emailed you the document that you created?
Yes, please.
Okay, I move to admit People's Proposed 17.
Yes, Your Honor, it's a law enforcement report, which is not admissible, certainly not at trial and not at the exam as well. Thank you.
Your Honor, he created this report based on all the databases he researched.
It's still a law enforcement report.
He created the report, Your Honor.
What exhibit number is this?
17.
17? Okay. People's Proposed Exhibit 17 submitted for criminal purposes.
All right, so I want to go over your report and discuss the things that you did during your investigation of the disappearance of Dee Warner, okay?
Okay.
All right, the first part on the bottom of the report, page 1, talks about commercial databases. Can you explain that to me?
So commercial databases, and I think I named the ones that I ran, usually it's going to be clear, TLO, accurate. They kind of pull a lot of the same information, but it's things like your driver's license information, any of your addresses that are associated with you, if you have any, fishing licenses, any kind of thing, but that businesses that maybe we use. It's kind of a collection of things that these companies collate over time and put into these reports. We usually run across all three because they pull from different data sources. So it's kind of the best way is to get the full pictures to run across all of them.
So when you were contacted in September of 2022, were you given a date to begin your search? So for example,
Yes, so I was.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So I was looking for anything from the date that she went missing.
Okay, and so what's the date that you began your searches?
I believe it would have been April of 2021, but I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact date.
Okay, if your report
I think it
indicates
might be,
indicates April 25th, 2021, would that be accurate?
that would be accurate.
Okay, and when you did a search of all those commercial databases that you just talked about, did you discover any relevant information as it relates to Dee Ann Warner after the April 25th, 2021 date?
So I think I noted in the report that there was one address that appeared as though it was after the fact. I think I indicated in the report that those that information was things that were linked to other family members or shared assets. So with the commercial reports, one of the things is difficult with the date is that it's going to have her association with a shared business with a spouse and things like that. So the dates will continue on, but there was no new dates or new addresses from that point forward.
Okay, so anything associated with Dee Warner, any person associated with Dee Warner, would that show up in that commercial database?
Yes, it would. So there's the one address that was associated, I think, with her son was the only new information from that point forward.
Okay. Did you look at any financial records for Dee Warner?
So as the Secret Service, we have our financial mission is our main investigative mission. So with that, we have a lot of financial contacts and with banks and things like that. So in these missing person cases like this, we will reach out to those financial contacts to ask, have you seen any new accounts associated with these individuals? And then if we were to get a match, then we would bring it back to the investigator and refer them to the bank to follow up with those records.
Did you get any results as it relates to the financial records in this matter?
I did not.
Okay. You have a section labeled law enforcement record searches. Can you tell me what that is?
So those are all of the things that I have access to that I either was running directly. I think in the report, I believe there was a couple of things Michigan State Police have run on their own, and I included them in there just as a reference to that. But the ones that I ran myself would be like FedLinks, which is the national database that has any kind of police contact. It could include traffic citations and things like that. So that's usually my first go-to search. We also run criminal history, federal and state arrest records, and things like that. I don't have the list. I can refer to the report. That's usually the full scope of it.
Okay, and did you discover anything as it relates to Dee Warner in those records?
I did not.
All right, and there's a section in your report titled Travel and Vital Records. Tell me what that is.
So that is using DHS systems. I'm looking for any international travel records. And then in addition, we also have a system where we can run domestic travel records as well. So that one's, I think, labeled ARC. So that's one that is pretty good for domestic travel as well.
Okay, as it relates to the domestic travel, did you find anything as it relates to Dee Ann Warner?
I did get a match on a Dee Ann Warner. So that system is a name-only search. So we did get a record that came back to a woman, I believe, in Louisiana. So I passed it back to the investigator because there was a woman with the same name that lived in that area. So I passed that back for further follow-up on that.
Okay. Did you discover anything else as it relates to Dee Ann Warner with domestic travel?
I did not.
All right. International travel. Did you discover anything? Did you discover anything regarding Dee Ann Warner on international travel?
There was no international travel after that date, no.
Okay. Your report discusses the use of facial recognition. Can you describe that for me? Tell me what that is.
So generally speaking, facial recognition is going to be an automated process where you're taking a known image and you are submitting it into a computer program, and it is going to compare against a portfolio of known, of existing photos to see if there is a match on those.
Okay, and do you know how long was that technology in place in April of 2021?
It was. For DHS, it's been in place since 2016.
And are these facial recognition, is this used at any other locations besides airports?
So it's used at all ports of entry and exit. So it's for Department of Homeland Security, we're using, it's not a, if you have a suspect where you're comparing an image trying to identify somebody, that's more of the forensic side. This is a validation process. So you're comparing against, when you're traveling, you're comparing against that, and it's going to tell you if this is a match for the records that you have. So if somebody is traveling on a fake passport, for instance, it would generate a no hit, and then you would go for a secondary check where they would do additional biometrics to confirm that the person traveling matches what they have in our existing data set.
Okay, and did you discover Dee Ann Warner through any of that facial recognition technology?
We did not.
All right. You discussed being involved in missing persons investigations. What is, for you and your agency, the definition of a missing person?
So for me, it would be any individual where their whereabouts are currently unknown.
Okay, and so that include children?
Yes.
Okay, and through your training and experience in your investigations, have you found anybody using your resources that you've worked on in a missing case? Missing person?
Yes. I'm sorry, can you rephrase?
Yes, I'm sorry. In a missing persons case that you've worked on, based on the technology you've used, have you found any of these people that you've been looking for?
Yes, we have.
Okay. And approximately how many cases of this nature have you worked in this particular role you're in right now?
In the role that I'm in now, I've done around 12 of these kinds of like reports.
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second there.
I've done around 20.
20, okay. And how many times do you believe you did a search, a full search for Dee Ann Warner since September 20th, 2022?
I believe it would have been 4 or 5 times.
Okay, and during any of those, did you find any evidence of Dee Warner anywhere?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Agent, my name is Mary Chartier. I just have a few questions for you today. Just to be clear, you went from Detroit to Paris to Amsterdam?
The Hague, but yes, close to Amsterdam, yes.
Nice. What one's your favorite?
It's the one I'm in now.
Okay, it's not Detroit. I don't know why.
No.
Good. Pretty nice assignments. So you talked about facial recognition. You would agree with me that facial recognition is not a flawless system, correct?
I don't know what you mean.
Sure. So you can't say, for example, that if I walk by a camera, that is not absolutely with 100% certainty going to flag me as matching with my passport, right?
So I think what I was trying to articulate before was there's kind of the 2 different versions. The one we're doing with the lights out searches, and that is going to be where you're doing it's comparison for validation purposes versus comparison for, you have a suspect on a surveillance photo where you're then trying to do a match. I think that's more of a forensic science, where in this we're doing verification. So no, you may have a situation where you don't get a hit on it, but then that's what I'm saying with the travel stuff, where you would then get pulled into secondary, where then you do those secondary checks. But for a 1-to-1 match, no, but.
Sure, and so I'm just asking about the facial recognition. You'd agree with me that 1-to-1 match, that is certainly not a flawless system, correct?
In that it's not 100% match?
Yes. Right, that's my question. And then in 2021, while we're still in COVID times now, but you also had people wearing masks and everything as they're walking around, right?
Yes.
Now, you indicated you've worked on roughly 20 cases and you found some people using your methods, but you also haven't found some people using your methods, correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
And in this particular case, to be clear, you have absolutely no idea what happened to Ms. Warner, right?
My role in it was just to do the searches to try to find her with our.
Sure. So would that be a yes? You have absolutely no idea what happened to her, correct?
Oh, no, I do not.
Okay, thank you. You cut out a little bit, but you would agree with me, right?
No, I do not know. That's not my role in the case. No, I do not.
Terrific. Thank you. No further questions.
Sir, how many, when you are brought into a case, so you've done 20, approximately 20, you said in this role, correct?
Correct.
All right, at what point in time are you told that you're being brought into a case?
Objection, this exceeds the scope of cross.
She asked the question about finding people, and the last question she asked, Your Honor.
Well, I asked, he said, testified on direct that there were people he had found using these methods. I confirmed there also were people he hadn't found using the methods. And then the last question was, he has no idea what happened to her.
It goes to the people that he hasn't found during these searches.
I'm going to sustain objection.
Sir, when you're investigating some of these cases, are there some cases that are
Sorry, I didn't unmute. I just want to go back a sec. Because when she's objecting here, it sounds like her chin is up, but I was busy grabbing the links.
There also were people he hadn't found using the methods. And then the last question was, he has no idea what happened to her.
It goes to the people that he hasn't found during these searches.
I'm going to sustain objection.
Interesting.
Sir, when you're investigating some of these cases, are there some cases that are involving children?
Objection, this was asked on direct, that some of his caseload involves children.
It's just a foundational question for my next question. Okay, and other cases involve, or do some of those cases involve like custodial interference cases?
Yes.
Okay, and are there times when you're called in to investigate when there is no evidence that the missing person is alive?
Objection. Again, this really exceeds the scope of cross. I mean, I think I had 3 limited questions other than asking him what his favorite place to live was.
Oh, what's your other question?
Thank you. You can sign off.
Okay. Prosecutor's mad. I've done something to my camera and now I look like I don't know what I've done. Maybe it's the lighting. I look very filtered. That is not what I normally look like, I can assure you. And especially not today. It's been a long day. Long fun day, but long day. So the conservator has been in for 4 months, 20 days. I was getting a little confused because I was like, why did they appoint a conservator before they thought she was missing? Can't comment on Detroit. She is very loud. And I like how she does questioning. But now when she was objecting, it felt a little like she was going like this, like, Your Honor, because she all of a sudden sounded very like high pitch. And if you're confused as to why Mel said butt cheeks, it's because the best way to speak is when you sit down, pull your one butt cheek and then your other butt cheek, sit like that. Then you're sitting in the right position. I told my nephews that today and they thought it was absolutely hilarious. Donald, about Middleton, I'm actually busy putting together a compilation of him. There's actually 2 compilations. One is just of like landlord tenant stories of his that I've been following. There's a lot of like quiet points when no one's talking. But the second one is like random funny stuff he says that I just can't skip past. Like if you go to my shorts, I've got quite a few where while I'm busy editing, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to use this for a short because it's just so funny. Anyway, what I'm busy doing now is I'm busy putting together all the links of what we've watched so far, except for there's a 2-hour one that we're going to need to fit in, which is 2 hours is full testimony, part 2 of the lead case investigator. For some reason, when they uploaded it and ordered it, it ordered after this guy. So I thought that that was the natural flow. Apparently it's not. We also skipped the criminal intelligence analyst. We haven't watched her yet, so I'm not going to add that in the recap. So we still have, let's see, 30 minutes, 31 minutes, 2 hours 30. So we have about 3 hours 20 left of this pre-trial. Yeah, so still quite a bit. But we've also kind of gone off a few ways. Repeat those instructions. Okay. I'm wearing a robe because it's bedtime, but there's normal clothes under this. Oh dear, I'm green screening. When you sit down, like especially if your feet should always be on the ground, right? So you're sitting up like that. You lift your butt cheek and you pull the one to the side, and then you lift the other one, you pull it to the side so that your butt is like, and that's the best way to sit. You're like sitting properly then. And your diaphragm is open so that you can breathe and project from your lungs. I do also have a folder that I'm building up of, what did I call it? I think I called it like, I called it something like public speaking for lawyers, like what I want them to know, because I think it was like presentation or something, because there's so much that they could learn from radio and public speaking that I think would just completely elevate. Like think about how much more you're enjoying certain lawyers over the others. It often comes down to public speaking. Okay, anyway, I better say goodnight. It's 20 past 11. I don't have sleeping tablets, so I really hope that I sleep tonight. Yeah, exactly. You can talk out of your mouth instead of your butt. I have to tell you a funny joke. I said to my mom last night, you're a granny now, so you can be a pain in the butt. And my nephew said, I don't want a granny in my butt. It was brilliant. So yeah, that was just a funny thing to end on because I'm procrastinating. Oh, trust me, I am hoping that they all see it. We'll just have to we'll have to game the algo so that it gets pushed further. Anyway, good night. I don't know if I'll see you guys tomorrow. It depends on how far I get with this office and my work day, because I might spend lunch trying to reconfigure, but I can always put something on and listen and all of that. See you guys then. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.